Here we go!
Let's go! This is KIC Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Ella's Film Club. Today we're bringing you a mini episode because you may all have heard of a very recent controversy in the film world, which is the fact that Warner Brothers has now been bought out by Netflix in a $72 billion deal. I personally think that this may not be a great decision for the industry because cinemas are where you fall in love with a movie and it's an experience like no other. Not just because of Dolby and IMAX, but also because it brings people together, which is what movies are made to do. Now Netflix are combining timeless classics with more modern titles like Stranger Things and Squid Games. And while I love those, I feel like it's just not the place for timeless classics. They're meant to be shown in a movie theatre. And something that I think is very relevant to this now more than ever is Sean Baker's 2024 Oscars speech, in which he stated, "We fell in love with movies at the movie theatre. Watching a film in the theatre with an audience is an experience. We can laugh together, cry together, perhaps sit in devastated silence together, and in a time in which the world can feel very divided. This is so important because it's a communal experience which you simply don't get at home." And I think that is very true. But let's dive deeper into the reason for this decision. For years, Warner Brothers has been struggling with their finances as a company with an alleged debt of $38 billion, which did lead to speculation about a potential breakup or sale of the company. So whilst this decision of Netflix buying out Warner Brothers came as a shock to many, we may have also seen it coming in the long run. Netflix is currently the world's biggest streaming subscription service, and I know that streaming services are the future of this industry, but I feel like buying out a production company that has been around for like over 100 years is just taking it a little bit too far. I think Netflix is already popular enough, so why do they need to become all powerful? And on that note, they will also acquire HBO Max too, so here's a list of what they stand to gain. They stand to gain the DC Universe, the Harry Potter franchise, the Lord of the Rings franchise, the Oceans franchise, the Game of Thrones franchise, A Star is Born, Barbie, Friends, Casablanca, Dune, Singing in the Rain, The Wizard of Oz, Sinners, Euphoria, The Big Bang Theory, Looney Tunes, and lots more. Now, I don't know whether they're going to keep Friends on Netflix or not because they said that they were taking it off on the 30th of December. So, guys, if you want to watch Friends on Netflix, you have until the 30th of December to do so. But now that they've bought out Warner Brothers, the decision of keeping Friends on Netflix may still be hanging up in the air. But what does this $72 billion deal actually mean for the future of film? The BBC stated the deal will unite beloved historic franchises like Looney Tunes, Harry Potter, and Friends, and HBO hits like Succession, Game of Thrones, under the same roof as Netflix's less conventional output, including Stranger Things and K-pop Demon Hunters. They also stated that Netflix has promised to keep releasing films in cinemas, a decision that makes some sense as it will be acquiring the DC superhero franchise, which are films that do very well in movie theaters, with Superman that came out back in June or July, I think it was. But not everyone believes that this will remain a priority for the streamer. After all, earlier this year, Netflix's co-chief executive officer, Ted Sarandos, stated that he believed moviegoing was an outdated concept, saying, "We're in a period of transition. Folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen and have strangers watch them play in the theatre for 2 months, and people cry and sold out shows. It's an outdated concept." Now that whole thing really hits a nerve because we already have so many threats in the film industry. For example, the threat of AI or job cuts and strikes. And putting films in cinemas is also a main source of income for filmmakers. So correct me if I'm wrong, but putting movies on a streaming service instead of in cinemas, most of that money is going to go straight to Netflix through views and subscriptions, which I think is very unfair. And I think Netflix buying out a whole production company is just killing it for indie filmmakers and filmmakers that actually want to have their films shown in the theatres. So for the Netflix co-chief executive officer to say that it's an outdated concept just really is a devastating statement. But Warner Brothers is one of the studios that defined Hollywood, creating classics such as Casablanca and The Exorcist. They were also the first company to successfully commercialize sound in films, and so it became standard in the industry. Warner Brothers movies have such magic, old-timey, and a fairy tale feel to them like no other, and I think that a streaming service buying a legacy to not just Hollywood but cinema as a whole is a devastating decision. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing for the future of film? Let us know in the comments below. And that brings us nicely to the end of this mini episode. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Here we go! Let's go! This is KIC Radio.